Hey, welcome to the post-game edition. Michigan State, Boston College. Spartans go into Boston College. They lose in a close game, 23-19. And man, oh man, Jonathan Smith has a lot to fix, a lot to work on because now Michigan State hits they're about to hit the hard part of their schedule. They're going to be playing, I think the next six opponents have been ranked at some point this season. Or currently ranked right now. If you're Michigan State, you're not good enough to overcome all your mistakes. Now, the positives. Let's focus on the positives. You lose 23-19, but in this game, you had three penalties. One of the penalties came off of a kickoff. So Noah Kim caused one of your penalties. So in a reshuffled offensive line, there was not a lot of holding penalties. In the rain, you were able to go out there. You were able to move the ball. You did not have four wide receivers. Nick Marsh, Antonio Gates, Glover, all did not play. Alante Brown's already out for the season. You were able to do that. You still came up short, but three penalties. I got to give you some props on that because it's been double-digit penalties in every game. Jonathan Smith, head coach, said he was going to fix that. Kudos to him. He fixed that. Now, Coach Smith, you got a lot bigger things to fix. One is the quarterback play of Aidan Chiles. I'll get to that later. That was one of the good things. Another good thing was the MSU defense. And guys, like it or not, this defense is slowly but surely becoming one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. I mean, Boston College, driving rain, you knew they wanted to run the ball, but they had a couple of big plays, but for the most part, the defense was able to corral them. The defense was able to keep them, MSU, in this game. And I think most importantly, 4 sacks, lots of pressures. They forced 2 fumbles. They recovered 1. They got 1 on the goal line, which was key because they didn't score. Boston College lines up to go for it on 4th and goal, and you kind of think, well, they're going to get this. No, they didn't. Big props to Jordan Hall, who's kind of been missing this season, but man, that was a man tackle. He hit Castellanos and basically took his soul from him, stopped him dead to rights right there at the 1.5-yard line. He had no momentum. The rest of the team came, swarmed in, got the stop, and then they drove down and went down the field to get the go-ahead field goal at that time. The defense really did step up in this game. They made key plays and brought a lot of pressures when they needed to. It was not easy for Boston College to move the ball. They were not able to run the ball. Like I said, it was the busted coverage with Spencer and Gross. He slipped and fell for the go-ahead touchdown. And then you had the running back had a couple of long runs where he broke it to the side. And that was really the big thing. When Ward kept, Trayshawn Ward kept hitting the corner and MSU could not stop him. He was a very patient back. But it was just a few plays. Other than that, they were able to get the stops. They were able to force some punts, and they were able to get the ball back. Now, the problem from MSU is the offense just is not getting it done, especially in the red zone, non-existent. They cannot score. Now, yeah, I get it. You're missing some players, but this is next man up. So I can't sit here and say, well, if they would have had this guy, that guy wasn't there. Your run game it's not what you thought it would be. With this makeshift offensive line, they're not able to hit the holes. They're not able to go out there and really assert their will. Aidan Chiles was your best runner, and a lot of those runs came off of busted plays. That was the good of Aidan Chiles, that he was able to improvise, and the improvisation of just, extending the plays. There was a couple of them where it was one, he looked like he should have been sacked for a 12-yard sack. Instead, he ends up running it down the field for a nice run. That's the good of Aidan Chiles. That's what you want to see. That's what Spartan fans have been waiting for. But he can't be your main running back. Now, K'Ron Lynch-Adams started in the second half to get some runs. He had to make up for the fumble. First of all, I don't know why in a driving rain you're bringing the ball out. You just take the touchback. If they're hitting you at the 5-yard line, you probably should have just called for a fair catch and got it at the 25-yard line. He fumbles, but This is where I go back to the defense. First and goal from the 4, they end up kicking a 39-yard field goal. The defense pushed them backwards. They brought the pressure. They brought the heat. The defense stepped up. The defense did everything they could to win this game for MSU. The offense, not so much. As I said, Lynch Adams, he had some nice runs late in the game. But here's a reoccurring theme. You cannot turn the ball over and beat good teams. And Michigan State had 4 turnovers, three interceptions by Aidan Chiles. And let's be real, folks. Spartan fans, it should have been 5. They dropped 2. It should have been 5 interceptions that they had. You're not going to win games. Aidan Chiles has to learn. Sometimes it's better to just throw the ball away and play for another down. The final interception, you had 2 timeouts and you were in midfield. There was plenty of time. Throw the ball away, regroup, and allow your team to come back. Run the play with Jack Velling. They were giving that up. Okay, take the chunks. Take what they give you until they take it away from you. He stepped out of the way of the pocket and just chucked it deep, going for the hero shot, except for he was in double coverage. Like I said, he threw 3 interceptions. He should have had 5. 2 got dropped. One was so bad that the 2 BC players actually hit each other and knocked each other out the game. Aidan Chiles has to have better decision-making, plain and simple, when it comes to passing the ball. I get it. He's young. He's 19. He's learning. And Spartan fans are willing to accept a lot because you look at what the quarterback situation has been for the past few years. You look at what the quarterback situation is down the road for the University of Michigan, and you're looking at potential of what could be, except for you can't. Just because you're waiting for the potential does not mean you can let this kid just go out there and keep doing this. If I'm Jonathan Smith going into this Ohio State game, because look, Michigan State's 3-1 now. I really counted as 3-3. If you're being real talk, because I don't see how they're going to beat Ohio State. I don't see how they're going to beat Oregon. That's not me being negative. So 2 top 5 teams. Okay, you're turning the ball over. Aidan Chiles has 7 interceptions right now. What makes me think he's going to all of a sudden stop against Ohio State or Oregon? So if you're Jonathan Smith in the next few weeks, when you hit that bye week and you regroup with Iowa and Michigan, which are 2 games I think this team could win, you got to cut down on the turnovers. You have to be smarter with your decision making. You have to be able to hit open receivers. I don't know what's going on with him and Montori Foster, but those 2 need to get in the backyard. They need to go to the practice field. They need to go someplace and work it out. This is the 4th or 3rd game that I've seen Montori Foster wide open and he's overthrown. I don't know if that's a Child thing. I don't know if it's a Foster thing. I'm just going to combine it with the 2 and say that they're not on the same page. Childs, when you have a busted coverage like that, it's better to just float the ball in the air and let him catch it. Don't lead him. Just make sure he catches the ball. Boston College got caught with their pants down, and you didn't take advantage of it because when Boston College caught State with their pants down for the go-ahead touchdown, they took advantage of that. That's problematic. I cannot blame the play calling because the play calling is scheming receivers open. MSU is just missing wide open receivers. You're not going to be able to beat these teams like that. You need better decision making when it comes to the passing game. I think one of the worst things that happened was, you see a guy like Patrick Mahomes, and I think, he's trying to go out there and be Mahomes-like. Now, in all fairness, as I stated, a lot of his runs saved the team. He was able to just, on the 4th and 1, the quarterback sneak. He did a lot of good stuff. One thing that Aidan Chiles did well was late in the game, which should have been the, go-ahead touchdown instead of go-ahead field goal. He scrambles, he stops, and one of the biggest problems I've had with Chiles is he throws 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, meaning every throw is just at the same velocity. He needs to get touch. This time he actually had touch. He floats it, and Nate Carter apparently was playing with boxing gloves on his hands. This is the 2nd time Nate Carter has dropped a wide-open touchdown in the end zone this season. This one was crucial because if he catches it, State goes up by a touchdown, you could absorb that touchdown, and now you'd be driving down to let Jonathan Kim kick the game-winning field goal, but he dropped it. There was no pressure. There was nothing. He just flat out dropped it. Look, I understand that Carter's a captain, but his productivity is really lacking in this game. 9 carries for 9 yards. He really wasn't a factor in this game. And when he had a chance to step up and be that hero, he's not there. Great story. I mean, but he's just not getting it done. I think that you're probably going to have to switch and make Lynch Adams RB1, because other than if Nate Carter doesn't get that long run like he did against Prairie View, he's really not giving a lot to this team right now. Now, going back to Aidan Chiles, if I'm Jonathan Smith, here's the deal. You can't let this kid go out there and keep throwing interceptions. Against Ohio State, I would let him know before the game, son, if you throw 2 after your second interception, I got to sit you down and maybe I'm going to let you watch the game from the sideline. I'm not saying you need to bench Chiles, but what I am saying is, yeah, there has to be some repercussions for his turnovers, for his interceptions. He's 7 right now. Okay, I understand there's a learning curve, but you can't just keep going out there throwing pick after pick after pick, hurting your team. Maybe you bring him to the sideline. Maybe you sit him for some series and let him watch and see what the speed of the game is, because I don't think he's quite caught up to it yet. Because when the pressure is on, that's when he tries to improvise, and it's feast or famine. I mean, he's like a box of chocolate. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get from play to play, from series to series, from throw to throw. Some are good, some are bad. You're hoping that you get the little chocolates that taste like, Snickers, but occasionally you get those nasty little coconut ones. And lately you've been getting a lot of nasty coconut chocolate. You got to fix that. And if I'm Jonathan Smith, if I get in the red zone, I don't know if I can put Carter in the game, because I don't know if I can trust him to make the big time catch when I need it. There's only so many my bads you're allowed to have. And as I stated, this team, you could have took that game on the road minus so many starters, but you didn't. You're 3-1, looking at a potential 3-3 going into the bye week. The key for this team is to get to that 6th win, to get that bowl practice, to get the eligibility, and hope that Chiles improves, because, quiet part out loud is everybody's willing to just say, hey, Aidan Chiles, he's going to get better. He may. But here's the quiet part out loud, and I'm not hoping this happens, but there's no guarantee he's back with this team next year. So if I knew he was coming back, then I would say, okay, it was like Kirk Cousins his first year. It was like Brian Lewerke his first year. It was like a lot of quarterbacks in their first year where it was just, man, it was a struggle, but they figured it out. I don't think we're going to get that Connor Cook first year where he just came out there, had a bad first half against Iowa, and then, he had a bad Notre Dame game, bad first half against Iowa, and then all of a sudden everything clicked. You got to be able to reel Chiles in. If Chiles keeps throwing the picks, it's up to Jonathan Smith. You're going to have to maybe sit him for a little bit, let him watch for the sideline, and see, maybe that will help him in readjusting his game. I like what I see from Aidan Chiles. I like the talent, but you can't keep rewarding interception after interception after interception, because it is hurting the team. Anyway, that's my post-game wrap-up. Michigan State loses at Boston College at night. Another home game, actually part of 3 in a row that they will have. Ohio State, it'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff at Spartan Stadium. Buckeyes are heavy favorites in this game. I'll have a preview of it later on in the week. I'll say this. As perfect as you play with penalties, with 3 penalties, you're going to have to play a no-zero turnover game against Ohio State if you want to give yourself a chance. If and only if you can do that and not drop wide open passes and hit the receivers in stride and not drop touchdowns and not shoot yourself in the foot, you may give yourself a chance. If it's status quo, I don't think you have a chance, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, wrapping up the Michigan State loss to Boston College, 23-19. I'm Rico Beard, your host of the 5 Star Zone.